Carrie, it will be a dream come true. For everyone else, it will be a nightmare.
Hello and welcome to Bomb Squad Matinee. I am your host and prom king for this episode, Tim M. Sullivan. And I'm joined by two co-panelists. First we have making his debut as a proper Bomb Squad member.
Hi, my name's Orion. Hi guys. I would stand up and take a bow, but I am currently bathing in pig's blood from the waist down, so I don't want you guys to see that. It's a little gross, so.
Yeah, we gotta keep that out of frame. And returning from the Jaws podcast from last year, we have
Paul Hibbard, and I thank you for letting me be back on again to talk about my favorite movie of all time.
Hell yeah. Paul, in case anybody watching or listening has not seen or heard the Jaws podcast, why don't you tell the audience kind of who you are, what you do?
Sure. I am a filmmaker in St. Louis, though I've been transitioning more into the festival side, and I work with St. Louis International Film Festival and Cinema St. Louis, but on my own, I run Hysteria Fest, which is a genre film festival that takes place in July every year in St. Louis, and it's coming up in about 2.5 weeks from July 8th through the 12th, and we just play the best films currently on the festival circuit from all over the world. We have films from almost every continent, and on top of that, along with all the great festival films that we are playing, we always focus on a new country or region through the repertory films, and this year we are focusing on Japan, which has a rich history of filmmaking and genre filmmaking. So it's a country I've been wanting to focus on for a while, and it's almost been so daunting that I wanted to be in the right headspace, and I feel like year 5 of our festival will be the perfect time to take it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to watch the Japanese films that will be playing and all the various screenings that'll be happening, and we'll talk a bit more about that at the end of the episode. But today's episode is going to be talking about the 1976 Brian DePalma directed Stephen King adaptation Carrie. This is a pretty exciting film. It's going to be fun to talk about, and it's a really good high school horror movie. And for the warm-up question, I did think about asking something Brian DePalma related, but I think he's such a style on his sleeve director that we're just naturally going to be talking about him during the discussion. So for the warm-up question, I instead decided let's talk about some of our favorite high school horror movies. All right. Start with you.
Start with who?
Start with you, Orion.
That would have been okay. I think I had a couple in my mind to choose from, but the one that first came to my mind, I think is horror-esque. I would say Heathers is a good example. Though I am more familiar with the musical than the movie. That's the first one that came to mind for me. It's a classic, I feel like. So, yeah.
Yeah, Heathers is a good pick. That's one that I think I've only seen once, but it is quite good. And we'll definitely try to revisit at some point in the near future. Paul, favorite high school horror?
I think Scream probably is, but Scream has been so talked about that I want to focus on a second film that came out around that time that I love just as much, that maybe does not have quite the it's known, but it doesn't quite have the attention of Scream. That's The Faculty. Robert Rodriguez's really underrated high school film, which was a semi-remake of Invasions of the Body Snatchers, and I don't know, have you guys both seen it before?
I haven't.
I don't think so. No.
It's been on my radar, but I have not seen
Yeah.
The Faculty.
It's really good. It kind of gets lumped in with some of the post-Scream films that came out at the time. Don't quote me on this because I didn't know I was going to talk about it tonight, but I think Kevin Williamson might have wrote it, but don't 100% quote me. Even if he didn't, it kind of has that feel to it, but it has Robert Rodriguez, who just came off of From Dusk to Dawn and just came off of El Mariachi and that tear that he was going through, and he wanted to make this high school film, but instead of him getting, I think, sucked into the system of all those post Scream teen slasher movies, he put his own mark on it, where it has that flashy camera work that he brought to it that his earlier films had, and because of that, it is just like it's just a really cool, underrated film that I don't think gets the attention that it deserves.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely will have to give The Faculty a watch because I do enjoy some Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, good picks all around. I have to.
I'm sorry. I just looked it up. Kevin Williamson did write it. I just looked it up real quick. Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream, so it's the same writer that connected.
Fair enough. So yeah, okay. same vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had two movies I wanted to talk about for this. One that's it's pretty about high school, but maybe less as a setting. And that is Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, because it is about Laura Palmer, high schooler, prom queen, and just the horrible fucking shit that's happening to her before she dies. And her being in high school is definitely like an important element of that film. But another movie I want to talk about that does use high school more as like a setting for the fucked up shit that's happening is Class of 1984. That's
okay.
That's a dark movie with some really gnarly kills in the high school. And it also has just the babiest Michael J. Fox you've ever seen. He was 20 when they filmed that, but he looks like he's 5. Just small little baby Michael J. Fox. But yeah, no, the Class of 1984 I think is great. Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me I think is great. And I also think Carrie is pretty great. So let's get right into it. Our thoughts on Carrie. Paul, like you said, this is your favorite film of all time. So let's hear about it.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite film. It does so many things that I love. That films can do. Like, it is a revenge story, but it's a messy revenge story, and it really, I think, takes a lot from the audience in what they're rooting for and who they're rooting for and how they are almost empowering Carrie because the whole movie, when you get the sense that she has this telekinetic powers, you want her so much to get this revenge on these people. Mm-hmm. And then when it's so, I mean, when we can talk about this as we go through it, but I think one thing I love the most about it is I think I misread the film when I was younger as just sort of being like a girl power revenge film where it was just like a very linear form of revenge, almost something like Kill Bill, where she was wronged and she got her revenge at the end. But the more times I watched it through my life, the more like I saw of the complexity of what was happening, to the point where like I would just watch it over and over and I would start to get like sad by the end when she gets the revenge, because it isn't, I think you want the revenge so much that you don't realize that she's basically doing it to a gym full of people who did not wrong her. The ones who wronged her, they're out of that gym. And it is sort of like this, it's interesting because Because I don't want to like hog this because I think we can get more into the discussion as we go along. But every time I watch it now, I want her not to get the revenge because it's like you've already won.
Yeah.
That whole gym is on your side. Like those,
Yeah.
they you can tell in their face that they think that that they went too far with what they did.
Yeah.
And if you have this guy who loves you, and if you just don't burn the place down, those two who did that to you, they're going to be arrested. Like their lives are over.
Right.
Everyone's on your side. Everyone thinks you went too far, and then it happens, and it's almost like it's like sad to watch, but in a way that makes the film more powerful because what you're rooting for the whole time, when you finally get it, you're like, oh, I didn't want it to be this messy.
Yeah.
So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely be getting into that. I'm sure we all will, because I mean that's the scene that is like the thing everybody knows about going in, pretty much. Yeah, good stuff. Orion, I think you said that this was your first time watching this version of Carrie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Before this, again, to bring up musicals, I'm a big musical fan. There is a musical based on Carrie that I was familiar with, to an extent. But watching the sort of original movie, I what I noticed a lot going off of you, Paul, is just about how you are rooting for Carrie, because I think that there was a lot in her character that a lot of people can relate to. You know, she's pretty heavily bullied, and you know, she's just like, you just feel so bad for her. And then when that revenge comes, you do, like, it does go way too far. Like, she's even hurting the people that she cared about, like the Mrs. Collins, and well, Sam doesn't get hurt. She's the only one that survives, but still, yeah, I don't know. There was a part of me that, not that I was happy that all of these people were getting like killed in that gym, but there was a sort of sense of release throughout that whole sequence that you can't really deny. And like, I don't know, it just, I found that movie very fascinating. I think it's a little bit of something I wrote down was like the horror of like facing your consequences, but I didn't realize this until you said it, Paul. The kids who did it weren't even in the gym when all that happened, and I didn't like catch that for some reason. So it's kind of like, it's just like horror in such a particular and unique way that I haven't personally really seen before. But I mean, you pretty much said everything I was going to say on that front. So I kind of want to get into specifically like how Carrie has been represented like in history. I feel like because in the book itself, I mean, her description is like she's kind of chubby and like short and all this kind of stuff, and like I feel like she's kind of been represented visually through like conventionally attractive women. Like the actress who played Carrie, she's really pretty. Like she's genuinely a pretty girl. And I think there's another adaptation of Carrie coming up being played by, who is that little girl in Hereditary?
Oh, I don't recall her name, but I know who you're talking about.
I think they're trying to do some kind of movie or some sort of production where she plays Carrie. And I think it's interesting to sort of twist how Carrie's represented by someone who would kind of be seen as an outcast and sort of marginalized, because it does kind of change the narrative. Because I think in the 1976 movie, having Carrie be conventionally attractive, I feel like maybe at that time it helps kind of garner more sympathy towards Carrie, to kind of get people on her side more. It's like, well, why are these people being mean to her? She's so pretty. But when it's someone who would get picked on, would get bullied like she was, like, it doesn't change. It does change the narrative. I think it kind of recontextualizes some plot points in the movie, and I don't know. I just think that's a particularly interesting thing to talk about, even though it doesn't exactly focus on the specific movie we're talking about. It's just something that's on my mind because I kind of relate to Carrie, because whatever, I was bullied, whatever. So yeah, those are kind of my big points. Yeah, that's all I had.
I mean, she does end up obviously killing the ones. It's just in the car later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's true. That's true. Oh my God.
It does feel good when that happens. It's almost like can you leave and just go kill them and not destroy the whole scope?
Right.
Exactly. Like, would have been a much happier ending if they cut that whole gym scene and just did the car.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good points. Specifically on the thing of, Carrie in the novel being, like more fat and less what we would consider traditionally attractive. Because I was, reading and listening to some commentaries, and the screenwriter Lawrence Cohen in a commentary was actually talking about, like, I guess basically kind of what you were saying, like they wanted her to garner a little more sympathy, and more specifically they wanted her to have like sort of an like a glow up in that moment right before all the blood falls on her. And I do think, with 2020's mindsets, we could now maybe make a version of that that's more true to what she looked like in the book. A little less conventionally attractive lead. And I do think that Hereditary Girl could be an interesting take on that.
I think that the new one's Mike Flanagan, I think, isn't it?
I think I might have heard something about that. I haven't really looked into it too much. Like I saw something vaguely about it a while ago, but we'll see how that ends up turning out.
Also, even though this is a horror movie, there were a couple moments where I couldn't help but just laugh, specifically at the end and we can get into more of the like special effects later, but like her mom getting stabbed by 8 different knives through like I couldn't help but just laugh out loud, because I'm like, are you serious? It is, and like I'm aware that it's kind of its time, but it was just a couple moments like that where I'm like, what the hell? It's very like over the top and dramatic, but I mean it also fits the whole movie, obviously. I just like
I think they wanted her to look crucified at the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
That's very much
that makes a lot of sense.
A Jesus. No, good stuff all around. Like, I will confess, this is the only version of Carrie that I have experienced. I haven't read the novel or watched any of the remakes or the Rage Carrie 2, or I think there was like a Filipino remake in the 90s that I saw something about.
Interesting.
I haven't seen or read any of those.
Okay.
But I had seen this one before, but it's been a long time. And going into it now with a lot more media literacy and a lot more knowledge on Brian DePalma as a director, and a little more awareness of my own personal religious trauma, I think made this an interesting watch. Carrie is just such a tragic character, because, I mean, you've all been talking about it, like, she doesn't really have a home, because at school she's just bullied by all the other girls, and she comes home and she has this religious fanatic mother who is like demonizing her for having her first period, and like literally hates her because she's like a reminder of the fact that she had sex, which is insane. There's a lot of really good stuff. I guess I'll just get right into the meat and potatoes of the prom scene. The blood, the revenge. It's all like, it's the thing you go into the movie knowing about, and like I think you kind of go in having a certain expectation of it, but then you actually watch it and it's so much more tense and dark and sad than you would even realize. And like it's like he's been saying, like literally the people that wronged her are gone at that point. And like I think what's really interesting about that is, you know, seeing how like we get the perspective of like what's kind of actually happening and then what Carrie is seeing in that moment. Like Lawrence Cohen, the writer, was even kind of talking about this. Like, there's maybe a couple people who are actually laughing, and everybody else is just kind of like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah, and they actually look sad. I mean, they look really concerned. But you know what's funny? The amount of people I've talked to when I try to explain my take on the film who say that everyone's laughing at her at the end. The amount of people that think that people are actually laughing is kind of shocking. And I don't think it's anything. I mean, I don't think that they are necessarily anything's wrong with them. I think it's just the power of the film. You are so locked into wanting the revenge that even though the film, I think, signals that they're not really laughing at her, you can feel it so much that you believe it.
Yeah, and like that's the thing, is like it's showing so much of what Carrie is seeing. Like you briefly see, like in the silence of it all, like you see Tommy mouthing "what the hell," but you don't hear it because she doesn't hear that. She just hears the ridicule and her mom saying they're all gonna laugh at you, and seeing the kaleidoscope, and the fucking principal calls her Cassie. And then she just goes berserk. And another thing that kind of came up a lot in like the commentaries and like behind the scenes stuff is like there is a lot of like sort of an implication of like sexual release in like a lot of different moments. And like you could argue that there's sort of a sexual release in just the carnage that's happening there. Like it's implied that when they're getting ready to dump the blood, like that's supposed to be almost an orgasmic, like, fuck you kind of moment. And then when Carrie's mom dies, like in that final moment, it's like a sexual release almost, because it's like the end of her existence as this repressed religious fanatic. And the repression is over, and now she's just releasing. I think there's some interesting stuff there, and you know, like I mentioned, you kind of can't talk a Brian DePalma film without talking about Brian DePalma as a director. Like you definitely get his signature stylings of tension, where like you can see somebody trying to fix the problem and they're being kept from fixing the problem, and then the bad thing happens. A lot of tension in the editing, of course the split diopters everywhere, canted angles, close-ups, the split screen going on in the like when the telekinetic stuff starts to happen in that scene, which like it's funny, sometimes I'll be watching a movie that like I know somebody that I know who is a filmmaker loves, and I'll be like, yeah, that explains some stuff. And like watching this, I was kind of thinking about your films, Paul, and like seeing the split screen stuff, I'm like, yeah, that explains some stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Palma influences me more than anyone. I think one thing that I think is really interesting is if you were a Brian De Palma fan and you had already seen Sisters and Phantom of the Paradise and all these movies that he had already come up with, and then you're watching Carrie, because that's how everybody watched Carrie. It was a Brian De Palma film. It was not a Stephen King film. Nobody had any idea who Stephen King was. And so everybody went into that thing as a Brian De Palma film, and you're watching it. They do a lot of that stuff that you're talking about, but it's very minimally used throughout the first 2/3 of the film. Like you do have the split diopter shot with her and Tommy, and you do have his little fast forward thing that he does when they're trying on the suits. So a lot of that stuff, but for the most part, it does not feel like a De Palma film until the shit hits the fan. Basically, until the kaleidoscope shot till the end of the movie, it's like he saved it all for the end, and it is just incredible. And it's the kind of thing, like, I can only imagine what it would be like if you were a cinephile watching this in '76 and you were a De Palma fan and you're spending 2/3 of the movie being like, oh, this is a very reserved version of De Palma. And then at the end, you're like, oh, wait, nope, here it all is. Here it is. It's the split screens. It's also, I think it's the first time that De Palma used split screens and then would make the frame switch places and move horizontal across the screen. I mean, it is just insane at the end, and it becomes a Brian De Palma film times a million at the end.
Right. And I even read about the split screen. Like, apparently he shot more of the prom scene in split screen originally, and like didn't think it quite worked, so they had to reshoot some of it for like more naturally. But it is very fun just seeing all that. And like, that's the kind of editing you really don't see much in movies anymore. So it's such a treat to see it in something like this. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in this movie, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more to say in general discussion after a brief ad break. Welcome back from that ad break. Time for another ad. MoviePalette.com. It's a website that contains little art pieces that contain thin lines of color, representing the dominant color of each frame of a movie. Got one right there for the movie Mandy. Tanner has one for Punch Drunk Love, but he's not here. You can get a movie palette of any movie you want. You could get one for Carrie. You could get one for another Brian De Palma film or another Stephen King adaptation or any other movie you want. Even if they don't have it on the website, you can pay a little extra to get one custom made. So just go to moviepalette.com, add it to your cart. Before you check out, enter Squad 15 to save 15% on your order. Thanks for watching. Back to the show. All right, we'll get into general discussion. I'm just going to start with a trivia thing that I learned today that I think is fun. Apparently when they were doing the casting, it was basically Brian De Palma and George Lucas were sharing a casting space so that Brian De Palma could cast Carrie while George Lucas was casting Star Wars. And there were like a lot of actors who were gonna be in one and then ended up in another. Like the actor who played Tommy apparently was trying out for Luke Skywalker. Supposedly Carrie Fisher tried out for Carrie, and then I guess later on was just like, I kind of dodged a bullet because I would have been a woman named Carrie playing a character named Carrie in a movie named Carrie, based on a book named Carrie.
Right, yeah. That is interesting, though.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that, like, those two movies, of all things, like, shared a casting space.
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, I knew they were close because of the infamous story about the whole reason the scrolls at the beginning of Star Wars is because De Palma yelled at him. Have you ever heard that story?
I haven't heard that one.
I don't think so.
So he made Star Wars, and that opening scroll, that infamous scroll that we see, it wasn't on the first cut, and things start happening, and De Palma is just like, what the hell is this movie? Who is this Darth Vader person? Why are these people being thrown at me? And he was like telling Lucas it was a failure, and then he was just like, look, just put some like words at the beginning, like explain this stuff. And that's where the scroll came from. So I knew they were really close and tight in that period. So that doesn't surprise me that they cast it simultaneously also.
That does make sense, because I just know that like the early cuts of Star Wars are a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
Like that was a movie that was saved in the edit 100%. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
No, it's great. And one of the things that I love the most is that scene that you were talking about, Ryan, with her getting impaled. That's not in the book, I believe. I haven't read the book in a while. I believe the mother dies from a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
think I heard that it was like
that's
Carrie
right.
uses the telekinesis to stop her heart, which
Yeah,
is
that's it. And it was De Palma who came up with the impaling scene, and apparently where he got it. Do you read where he got it from? He,
I
he
don't
got
think so.
he got it from Throne of Blood, the Kurosawa film, when Mifune is getting
nice.
shot with the arrows, and he's getting hit with the arrows, and he's getting impaled like that. So
Oh
he,
shit.
when he does that stuff, he was just recreating what Kurosawa did
Yeah.
with Mifune getting hit with the arrows.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
That is
like
pretty cool.
I like the screenwriter was kind of saying like the heart being stopped by the powers thing, like that's a really interesting literary thing that doesn't translate to film super well. So I think ultimately they made the correct decision, at least for that time. You might be able to do that now in some visually interesting ways, but I mean, it just goes with the religious symbolism of it all. Just elevate that as much as you can, honestly.
Mhm.
Like you got the Last Supper in the background, literally
Yeah.
as Carrie is having dinner with her mom for the last time before their
Yeah.
death. Just all kinds of stuff like that going on.
And then
Um,
the creepy Jesus statue in her
yeah,
little cubby hole with the weird eyes. I don't know what that's about either. That could just
yeah.
be an editing thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder what the
Maybe.
deal with those eyes was. Like, if there was like a light under that statue.
Yeah, maybe they just couldn't. I don't know. Surely it had to have been some kind of like issue in production that they had to
Yeah.
just like like
Yeah.
draw them on. I don't know. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Was this your first? Orion, was this your first De Palma film you had seen, or have you seen that before?
Yes. Yeah, this is my first diploma for sure. Definitely
What
want
do
to
you
watch
think?
more.
Yeah, do you
I
like the style?
I really liked it. I definitely heard what you were saying about like how he kind of reserved some of his sort of signatures until that very big scene just to make those effects, you know, pop out more and make them more meaningful in that sequence. I thought it was just a very clever use of like the split screen stuff and like the lighting as well. Obviously, everything turns red as soon as the lights go
Yeah.
off and she starts
Yeah.
killing people. But
Yeah.
no, I thought it was really interesting, and I definitely want to watch more of his work because I really like this one, so I'll probably like the other ones.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. His camera work, it's the kind of thing where you either think it's doing too much or you fall in love with it. So
Yeah.
And like, I
it's cool. It's cool
guess
you like this.
if you're wanting to watch something a little more actiony, I think a good like kind of starting point is Mission Impossible, the first one. Like that's a pretty
Good. Okay.
accessible. That's pretty accessible to Palma. Phantom of the Paradise, I really like. There's just some really wild uh, production design stuff happening in that movie. Um,
I gotcha.
yeah,
Okay, noted. I didn't realize. I never know. I'm not good with like matching directors to names sometimes, unless it's like the obvious ones.
yeah.
So that's good to know. I didn't realize he did Mission Impossible. That's
Mhm.
I'll have to
Yeah.
probably actually watch those now. Did
He
he do all of them or just
he
the
he
first
did
one?
he did the first one. The first like
Okay.
Mission Impossible is kind of weird because like basically the first three are like what I call the auteur trilogy because it's Brian DePalma does the first one, John Woo does the second one, and J.J. Abrams does the third one, and like
Mm.
those movies look like those directors, and then Brad Bird does the fourth one, and it kind of just looks like an action movie, and then Christopher
Required.
McQuarrie I think directed 5 through 8. And those are just kind of like, yeah, this is just what Mission Impossible is now. Um, there's some interesting stuff there. But yeah, no, you were talking about like at the end when people start dying, like the lights turn red. I do love that, like, because I love, creative lighting in movies, especially horror stuff, and I like that this one has like actual real motivation to look that way. Because
very clever.
So sometimes you can like get lighting like that, and it's just kind of shoehorned in. But like, there's a reason for all of the like reds and blues and all of that you're seeing, which I just appreciate that in this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think of Pino Donaggio's score? Do you think the score is good? Did you like the music in it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was so... I don't know, like, I sometimes have a hard time noticing a score when it comes to the movie, just because, like, it's hard for me to kind of separate the two for whatever reason. But,
That's
like,
good.
I just... Yeah. But, like, I just thought it was so fitting for this movie. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say. I just, it's so, like, intentionally crafted and, like, detailed specifically to the movie. Not that most aren't, but like I just noticed it, especially with how like stylized this movie was. The soundtrack was really cool. I don't know much about like who composed it and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I always have loved the psycho strings that play whenever Carrie's doing some telekinesis shit, and I just read today that like the Psycho composer was originally going to be the composer for this, but he passed away before he could work on it.
Wow.
Because like he was a collaborator with DePalma.
Yeah, they did Sisters together.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I hear what you're saying about like not noticing scores, because that's what they say. They say that a good score should be felt and not noticed, and then they say if you notice a score, 80% of the time it's because it's bad, and then 20% of the time it's because it's bold and it's good and you can actually notice it. So this is like one of the 20% that I actually really notice it, because most of the time the score just kind of fits into the background too of the film for me. This is one of the times where I actually notice it, and I notice it for good reasons and not for bad reasons.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm even having little bits of it kind of playing in my head just throughout the day, and yeah, I think it's a really good score. I do like it a lot.
One connection to this film, if you're looking for another recommendation, Orion, is Blowout, which came out 4 years later, and that's probably his most political film. Have you seen that one, Tim?
I have not yet. That's one that I still need to watch.
It's very political. It's very cynical. It was just very kind of just of the moment, and it's in many ways his boldest film, at least politically, because DePalma was a leftist, but he was having trouble, like I think, integrating it as he became bigger and more famous, and that was one he was able to. And the reason he was able to is because John Travolta, who worked with him on Carrie. Between Carrie in 76 and Blowout, which was 1980, he became huge. He became, he did Grease and Saturday Night Fever and all these films that just made him huge. And De Palma was just having trouble getting this thing off the ground. And Travolta's like, hey, you gave me a shot in Carrie, and it was a small role, but I had a lot of fun with you. Why don't I use my star power and let's do this film that otherwise won't get done? So in a way, like, Travolta cashed in all his fame to trust Palma to do Blowout. And together they made possibly his best film. I mean, Carrie, I love, but Blowout might be pound for pound his best film.
Okay, I'll definitely have to watch that one. That one sounds really cool. So I should definitely watch it.
It is crazy that this is like Travolta's first big role. It's like just before Saturday Night Fever and Grease. He did this movie. And like that was something that I was reading and kind of listening to a lot, is like this was a movie that made a lot of careers, which I think is really fascinating. And like everybody's doing a good job. And all of the actors are doing really good work. Like Sissy Spacek as Carrie is incredible. Piper Laurie as her mom is incredible. I also do love that like both of those actresses would end up working with David Lynch later, because Piper Laurie was in Twin Peaks and Sissy Spacek was in The Straight Story. That was something kind of funny that I noticed on this watch, just having very recently revisited a lot of David Lynch stuff after he had passed away.
Mm-hmm. You know what else Piper Laurie was in was the movie I recommended at the beginning. I should have thought of it to tie it in, but she's in The Faculty as one of the evil teachers. So there's another reason to see The Faculty.
Yeah. And like this was her coming out of retirement too, because what was the movie she did right before this? The Hustler. She was in The Hustler, and she was like, I'm retiring from acting, and then they handed her this script, and at first she was like not really sure about it, but her husband told her, DePalma, he kind of has a way of satirizing things, and she looked at it as more of like a black comedy, and she was like, okay, I can work with this, I can do something with this.
I'm glad she did, because she's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, 100%. So good, and like they have such great chemistry. I think Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie do. You can tell that like there is a like very twisted, abusive relationship between those two characters.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I think I read somewhere that if he didn't get Piper Laurie, he wanted Janet Leigh, but I'm not sure how verified that is. But that would be another connection to Psycho if he was to have gotten her instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I was watching there's like a documentary called Acting Carrie, and it was like mostly talking about the casting, and I was just kind of watching it with headphones in, and my wife was just kind of peering over at the screen, and she thought that Piper Laurie was Debbie Reynolds at first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Also, the infamous shower scene at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Like, one of the things that, was sort of a make or break was like they kind of had to inform all of the actresses playing the girls is like, hey, you're gonna have to be partially or completely nude in the opening scene, and naturally that caused some tension. Some of the actresses were like not wanting to do that, and they kind of compromised and threw something together. Like some of them were completely naked, some of them just had like some bits showing, and some of them are concealed enough that everybody was fine with it. And like they I think I heard that they shot Sissy Spacek's part of that scene first, and that kind of relieved some of the tension. Because they were just like, if she can do all of this, like, we can be naked for a few frames. And, like, there's also the story of how, like, when she didn't quite know how to play, like, the reveal of her getting the blood, and, not knowing what that was, and Jack Fisk, her husband, the art director, was like, so when I was a kid, I got hit by a car, and I was just like looking at the Christmas lights in the middle of the street, and just looking at these beautiful Christmas lights, and then one moment I'm just under a car, and so he was just like, use that, and so that's what she used to get that reaction. Is just like she's bathing, she's looking at the Christmas lights, and then suddenly she's under a car.
That definitely puts her performance into perspective a lot. Yeah. I thought she did it. She did really well in that 100%. Scene. Like, yeah.
I was just talking about like how like sultry and slow mo that opening was shot, where it was almost like dreamlike. It felt like sort of like a sexual awakening. It felt a little bit leery too. I think it's the kind of thing that that only DePalma can do.
Yeah, apparently, like, she didn't, Sissy Spacek didn't know that they were gonna, like, do that in slow motion, but she kind of had it in slow motion in her mind, so she played it slow motion at first. So when they put it in slow motion, it was just way too fucking slow. So they were like, we gotta do that again. Also, apparently, when they were doing the shower scene, like, they kept fogging up the camera lenses with the steam, so they literally had to get, like, the set dresser's blow dryer to unfog the lenses.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun production stuff. Also, we like talked about, you know, the car getting flipped at the end. And like apparently that was the thing that frightened Sissy Spacek the most when they were shooting, because it wasn't even that she was afraid that she was going to get hit, but she was just afraid that something was going to go wrong and some stunt man was going to get hurt doing this stunt. Which, I mean, I've been on productions where, you know, there are some, you know, intense stunts happening, whether it be a physical action or firearms, even with blanks. You know, that kind of thing can be really nerve-wracking for an actor, absolutely. Even if you're not worried for your own safety, for somebody else's.
Yeah, I was on a set where it was the director that was driving, because we couldn't really see like the driver, but he had we were at like a storage unit, and he like drove through this like basically drywall that we put up, and the camera was like all the way in the back, and he was like this close to hitting the camera and like hitting the back wall. He didn't though, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, being on set with like crazy stunts like that is like, it's kind of fun, but it's also like a little scary, because it definitely could go terribly wrong, especially when you're like filming something where like a car literally gets like flipped and absolutely decimated. Like I would be pretty scared, honestly. And, like, I don't blame her.
The lower the budget, the scarier it is too, because like you get one take sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure. That's the risk a lot of filmmakers like to take, though. So you know. Yeah. Sure.
I know the end of the movie is when with the hand coming out of the grave, it was like considered one of the best jump scares at the time, and it's the ending that influenced Friday the 13th. When Jason emerges from the lake, Crystal Lake, and grabs her and pulls her under, they were all on set saying, "Let's do what Carrie did. We got to get that last minute jump." And so I almost think like to the point where like at this point it feels really like perfunctory how they do it now, but a lot of like horror movies where they just end with like something jumping at the screen. Yeah, you think like Paranormal Activity, you jump at the screen for no reason. Like all of that, I think, kind of just originated with Carrie, and then every single time it was done, it just got worse and worse and worse.
That's always how it is. The first one does it really well, and everybody's like, "Well, we want to do what that really good movie did." I heard a couple things about that. Number one, like, that is Sissy Spacek. She insisted that all of the shots of just like her hands or her feet doing things be her specifically. She's like, no, there's not going to be a double doing my hand. That's my hand. In this shot. So like they had her underground in a rig for that. And I also one of the stories that the screenwriter was talking about was like, I guess there was a pre-release screening where like right at the end the mom is, you know, talking on the phone like you know, she's gonna be okay in like a couple months or whatever it was she said, and I guess some guy in the back just goes, "That girl ain't never going to be okay." And just like everybody in the audience started bursting out laughing, and then the hand thing happens and they started screaming. So it's just like this instant switch of everybody laughing their ass off to being horrified at this jump scare, which I think is neat. That's like a neat little, okay, we have a good movie here kind of story.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great film. I'm glad we were able to talk about it.
Are we winding down? We want to get into final thoughts?
Sure. Let's go first.
All right. Orion, final thoughts on Carrie.
Final thoughts. Great movie. Really interesting themes and horror elements, and very foundational. A very foundational movie in the horror genre. Overall, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Hell yeah, good stuff.
So yeah.
Paul, final thoughts.
I love it. It's my favorite Stephen King adaptation ever. It's my favorite DePalma. It's not his best necessarily, but it's my favorite DePalma. It's one of the reasons I want to make movies. The thought of a female heroine covered in blood, which we did with Some Visitors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That imagery to split screens. It's just how I look at films. It's like there's a lot of filmmakers I love. I love Scorsese. I love Lynch, but I don't look at films the way that I look at Palma films. When I see a De Palma film, it's like what life looks like. And so I love it. And if we're gonna give it ratings, it would be a 10 out of 10 for me.
Hell yeah, good stuff. I like this movie quite a bit. Like, this is my first time watching it in a long time, but I'm glad that I revisited it for this episode. Again, knowing a lot more about film and about Brian DePalma, and again being more aware of my own religious trauma makes this an interesting watch as an adult. It conveys some really interesting themes. It just does so much so well. I don't know if I would say this is my favorite Stephen King adaptation. It's kind of neck and neck between this and The Shining for me, but I will say that Stephen King apparently did really like this movie, which is rare for Stephen King. He usually is not a fan of the movies based on his books. Famously despises the Kubrick Shining movie.
Well, to tie it into that, when he did his miniseries in the 90s and he wanted to do it again, he tried getting De Palma because he loved Carrie so much. And when he did the miniseries, he was like, I love Carrie so much, I hated The Shining. Will you direct the Shining miniseries? And De Palma's like, fuck no, I'm not touching that.
No, that's fair. But yeah, I do think that that's really interesting. Again, if you're making a Stephen King movie that Stephen King likes, that means it must be pretty damn good. So with that said, this has been our episode on Brian DePalma's Carrie. Thank you all for tuning in. Paul, thank you for coming onto the show. You were terrific.
Thank you so much. I know I'll see you at Hysteria Fest, and anyone listening, come on out July 8th through the 12th. We got tickets still available, but there's also a bunch of free events that you can do. Also, free podcasts from Destroy the Brain talking about Japanese horror. There's free films, all kinds of stuff. So tickets are cheap, but you can even just do a bunch of free stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely make it out to some of the ticketed events that still have tickets on sale. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a couple of movies that have already sold out, but I want to talk about them anyway. Because once again, I am continuing my streak of having my name on at least one movie playing in Hysteria Fest each year. And this year I have my name on, I think, all three of the big local features, because Hag, Jackie Kelly's movie, I got to be an extra in, and I don't know a whole lot about that movie outside of kind of the basic conceit and the trailer and stuff, and the one scene that I was in. but I think that's going to be really exciting. You sold out 2 screenings of that and opened up a third. So
And the third's almost sold out. It's close.
yeah. If you're able to make it out to that, definitely get a ticket for that third, technically second screening because it's right after the premiere. And Down the Long River, I didn't actually work on, but I donated to crowdfunding, and I've been following that production. Kurt Abashan is a guy that I've worked with a number of times on various projects. I even did post-production on a little short film he directed that got in last year called The Quarry. And I'm excited to see that one, but of course Reaper Road is the big one that I'm really excited about, because that is a film that I have been editing, and this is my first feature film as lead editor, so I'm really excited to see a crowd witness that. I've been working closely on that for a couple of years, and it's going to be a really exciting screening. That one sold out within the day, but there will be other opportunities, and anybody who already has a ticket, I'm really excited to wait for you to see that movie. But yeah, no, I'm excited for all the stuff happening at Hysteria Fest. So if you're in St. Louis, be sure to check it out. Go to the events and screenings that are available. But yeah, thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. If you are listening on the audio platforms, please give us a review or a thumbs up. Tell us how we're doing. We appreciate any feedback we can get. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Leave a comment below. Let us know. What do you think of Brian DePalma's Carrie? What do you think of the novel? What do you think of the various remakes and the sequel? Are you excited for the Mike Flanagan Carrie adaptation? Comment below, let us know. While you're down there, hit the like button if you like the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. Hit the bell icon to get updates on when we upload stuff. And if you want to support us further, you can consider donating to our Patreon. $5 tier gets you access to commentary tracks, and the $10 tier gets you a shout out at the end of the episode. So many thanks to Tanya Kraft. We appreciate your continued patronage of the channel. And if you'd like to support us in a different way, you can go to bombsquadproduction.shop and buy some merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, hats, stickers, magnets. Got some cool merch. You can rep our shit. Thank you once again for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to be talking about The Rocketeer, a Tanner-hosted episode. I have not seen that movie, but I'm sure it'll be a fun time. So be sure to tune in for that. And once again, thank you for tuning into this episode. And remember, they're all gonna laugh at you. Farewell.
I slid my ticket across the table and I said, "Sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl."